I actually couldn't be more excited about today's episode, even if I tried. I recently filmed a piece for ITV on the subject of DNA testing for dogs. And as part of the feature, we actually did a real test on Rodney. So today I'm getting his results live on the show. Now, I woke up this morning and my first thought was of those trashy human chat shows where they do these dramatic DNA tests to find out who the father is, which is obviously absolutely ridiculous. I mean, of course, I know I'm Rodney's father, but that's not what we're testing today. I can't help feeling that there's still a sense of anxiety and drama around this. But today's guest has the very important task of bringing this conversation back to the scientific level that everybody would expect and to manage my ridiculous excitement. Welcome to Georgina Richardson, who actually performed Rodney's DNA test live on TV and has been fiercely guarding his results until today. Georgina is the head of UK for Kinship, the innovation division of Mars Petcare, responsible for Wisdom Panel, the world's most accurate DNA test for dogs. Georgina has an extensive career in cutting-edge technologies around the pet industry, and as the proud pet parent to dogs Dudley and Herbie, she understands firsthand the needs of millennial pet owners, which is instrumental to the growth of Kinship's products. Georgina, welcome to the consult room.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me.
I do have to ask, why am I so excited right now? I presume I'm not the only one that gets excited about their dog's DNA results, but why do people look forward to this so much?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think your excitement is infectious. I can feel it. So I think, people are really excited just to satisfy a curiosity, no matter what age of the pet, the dog or the cat, getting to know your dog's breed is especially if you've had suspicions or kind of, a bit of guessing, it's just really great to satisfy that curiosity. But moreover than that, you get to put an identity on him, truly.
Now, I'm going to have to be really disciplined during this podcast because I know you've got Rodney's results right there.
I have them in front of me.
I know, I'm beyond desperate to see them. However, we do need to talk about the science first. So now, if I recall, DNA mapping started back in the early 2000s with the Human Genome Project. Now, this was a huge scientific breakthrough, but dog DNA mapping just started immediately afterwards, and I think it was a boxer called Tasha. I think was the first dog. But of all the species, why do you think dogs are so interesting to us?
Well, other than the fact that they're man's best friend, getting closer to our dogs is absolutely crucial. Dogs actually were prioritized for so many reasons. They're really an excellent model for human health conditions. So being able to detect cancers, for example, and other human health conditions and mapping them back to the canine species is something that's really interesting to scientists. Dogs are complex as well. We can really understand a lot about their life expectancy, about their potential disease risk, about their traits. And dog breeding, has been in history for years. So something that, is very, very important to understand.
When I was doing a little bit of research before this podcast, I did think about something which was really obvious, but also really interesting, is that with human intervention on dog breeding, we've almost squeezed, a lot of kind of, if you like, evolution of characteristics and DNA and actually forced a lot of it, probably quite unnaturally. So within one species, you've got such genetically diverse examples. So yeah, it was really interesting to see. This is probably quite a unique species in that respect, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, as humans, as we start to breed dogs and cats for what we want and what's desirable to us, it's really important that even more so to get closer to the genetic diversity within the animal to ensure that we're breeding safely.
So when we filmed the ITV piece, loads of people contacted me afterwards and they were like, what breed is Rodney? Have you found out his results yet? But this is more about just breed, isn't it? So what else am I going to find out today?
Absolutely. Look, I think when people think about dog DNA and being able to detect information about their dog, perhaps the first thing they think about is breed. When we think about human DNA tests, we think about ancestry. So, yes, obviously we are a DNA testing business. We're going to be able to detect the breed of Rodney, but deeper than that, We want to be able to inform you of his genetic health risks and any complications there. We want to be able to connect you with the right information around any relatives that Rodney may have within our database. So Wisdom Panel as a business has DNA tested 3 million pets globally. And so somewhere, somehow in our system, perhaps Rodney's got some long lost brothers or sisters, or perhaps even parents or grandparents. So it's really informative for people to be able to know their whole dog is what we say. Also physically, its traits and its appearance, and we're going to be able to detect information there for you.
So there's a lot in there, isn't there? I'm going to unpack that, I think, a little bit and just explore it. In terms of the breed information, like, obviously that's the bit that's going to, be really exciting to hear. But how could that help me as Rodney's owner in kind of, caring for him going forwards?
Absolutely. So we talk about understanding your dog's breed is really important for being able to tailor things like nutrition. If you're really able to understand the primary breed mixes within your pet, you're able to provide the right mix of nutrition for that breed. Also exercise requirements, making sure that the pet is getting the right adequate amount of exercise. And then really behavior and training is a big one, right? And moreover, even more importantly, even more recently with behavior becoming a real pain point for pet owners, being able to understand how you can tailor and amend your training based on the dog's breed. And then from a health point of view, there are some genetic health tests, which are obviously very important for the veterinarian to understand.
Wow. So immediately it's turned from just a bit of information to actually there's quite a lot of action I need to take on the back of this. So that'd be really good to understand as we when we do the reveal. So the other bit that you just talked about there, which I thought was really interesting, was the relatives. Now, immediately, I think of kind of these ancestry.com type, scenarios where you can find long lost relatives and, share stories and photos and things like that. But I think there's probably quite another valuable reason for that in terms of regulating and preventing excessive inbreeding. Is that positioned in the results as well?
Yes, so we test for genetic diversity, so we're able to determine, the closeness in terms of Rodney's DNA to other dogs within our database. But then, if you were interested in breeding Rodney, we do recommend that every dog that is a subject of breeding does get a test to ensure that there is no crossover. I think really important in dogs like Labradors, where there's a lot, and we need to make sure that there is that genetic diversity to prevent any inbreeding. I own a dachshund, and actually a dapple dachshund. So really, again, important to understand that, what I can and can't do as a pet owner if I was interested in breeding him. So we are finding more what we call hobby breeders, people that are, breeding their dogs on the idea that perhaps they would like another puppy, or perhaps they, see it as an opportunity to bring more great dogs into the world. So, it's just really important that people understand their responsibilities as a pet parent, first of all, and then beyond that, if they are interested in breeding.
But going back to the relatives piece, there must be some lovely stories that you have, or kind of examples of, where this has been a really beneficial thing to understand.
Endless stories, Paul. And I think this is kind of what drives me every day to do your job is understanding, the meaning behind owning a dog, and particularly if you own a rescue pet, what is its background, that curiosity of really wanting to understand and in order to be able to provide the best for them, and we have got so many stories. A few spring to mind. One is actually just last week I received an email from a lovely lady who had DNA tested a dog out in a rescue shelter out in Greece, who had, she was a volunteer for the charity and she'd taken some DNA kits out with her. And the reason for that was just she wanted to help the dogs that had been in the shelters for a long time, perhaps weren't getting interest for whatever reason. And she called the DNA test results the dog's get out of jail free card, because we saw that dog was rehomed immediately afterwards on the notion that the pet owner then knew more about their pet. So this idea that we can really help forgotten dogs, I think, is really, really powerful, and kind of brings a bit of a tear to my eye, to be honest, because it's just so heartwarming and wonderful. And then just, on a lighter note, just some really cool stories. Like, we've got contacted by somebody to say, hey, look, it looks like, I can't believe it, but Blue's brother is in the same town as me. We rehomed him 4 years ago, and we really want to be able to connect with his brother on his birthday. They wanted to throw them a joint birthday party, which again was so cute. This idea that you can bring joy to not only the dog, but the pet parent as well. So lots of wonderful stories, which just, melt my heart a bit.
Oh no, right, okay, I'm getting a bit emotional now, so let's...
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. So in terms of the rescue situation, do you think that could be a way of helping dogs in rescue finding homes? Absolutely.
Look, we at Wisdom Panel don't suggest every dog has a DNA test, but certainly if it's something that rescue shelters want to do to not only understand the breed mix, but equally its history, and be able to provide that pet owner with some more information, I think could really be very, very powerful. There's a caution around it, just making sure that it doesn't do the opposite. Perhaps if there are breeds which have superstitions around them that are detected within certain dogs, does that make the matters worse? So we just have to be cautious that we don't use it in the wrong way. But I think I certainly would feel extremely informed if I had information that came from my rescue charity, perhaps.
There's so much to go at there, Georgina. I think we need to have a completely separate conversation about that, because I'd love to explore that with you. Going back to the test itself then, so another area is health.
Yes.
And you mentioned kind of genetic disorders and things like that. So what can be done if that flags up on a DNA test?
Yes, so the DNA test we did on Rodney was our premium test, which checks for over 210 different genetic health tests, which is probably too many for you to be able to trawl through them all. So there's a lot in there. There's a lot we unpack. There are tests which are, more likely to be prevalent in perhaps Rodney's breed. I can't say which at this point. But, what can be done? So as an example, we check for a few common genetic disorders, for example, the MDR1 gene, which is a medication sensitivity. So therefore, perhaps you might avoid certain medications, speak to the vet about the fact that he has this certain genotype and perhaps needs to avoid tablet form drugs, for example. If he's unwell, perhaps it's important that the vet knows that. In Labradors, we see an obesity associated gene or obesity risk gene called the POMC, which is, you might notice your dog overeats, was very, very interested in food, which is very, very common in Labradors. And we hear Labrador owners all the time say, oh, yeah, my dog definitely has that. But it's an increased appetite, which may, the dog may show signs of being hungry even after it's eaten a meal. And so, how do you manage that from a diet point of view to ensure the dog doesn't become obese? And then really, very important things like just another example, be perhaps exercise-induced collapse. Is there a neuromuscular disorder? Are there mobility disorders? Is there anything going on with his potential degenerative in terms of his eyes or his hearing? So it's really more about knowing the deep DNA of your dog to ensure that you can make proactive steps in later life to be able to make sure that he has what he needs still, perhaps if any of these do come to light for him.
How interested are insurance companies in this kind of information?
I've spoken to a few and they're very interested in the breed information, very, very interested in the breed information. But I would say that it's quite progressive. And in the UK, I think the idea of, breed specific insurance or perhaps genetic health risk based insurance is something that is probably quite far from where we are today. The innovation there is not quite there. When, pet parents have a reservation in some ways about, will my insurer be told about this information? And the answer is absolutely not, just in case anyone's curious. But I would personally love to see some progressive work done in the innovation space within insurance to see what could be done to really drive not only, perhaps genetic based or even health based or health risk based insurance rather than just how we currently commonly price insurance.
so much information in there that could be useful in the future. Like you say, it looks like an area for a huge amount of research, doesn't it? Matching up those different areas.
Absolutely.
But yeah, finally, we've got traits, which my understanding is physical features and attributes. So what kind of things do you tell people in this section, and what could I do with this information?
Yeah, so within the test, we check for 35 trait tests. Okay, so it's really around understanding your dog's appearance. So you may know what it looks like, but you might want to demystify some of those physical traits, for example, like why does it have pointy ears, or why is its coat longer than perhaps I thought it should be? Why is its fur silky, or why does it feel rough? So it's really about, again, understanding and satisfying why does my dog look the way it looks. Within the traits test, we're going to check for things like general appearance, the coat and colouring, and then any distinctive sort of physical traits. So things like coat colour, what we call furnishings. Interesting for pet owners to understand, why has my dog got blue eyes, for example, or floppy ears? Yeah, so really around just physical appearance.
So of those 4 kind of areas, what's the biggest reason that people are drawn to DNA testing?
So the absolute biggest, Paul, is breed curiosity. If you speak to 100 pet owners, many will say, breed is the most important thing. What we're seeing more recently as we start to tap into a new generation of pet owners who have more of a thirst for their own health information. Actually, you can take it one level deeper. So we see a high number of pedigree dog owners coming to Wisdom Panel to DNA test their dog. Now, if you have a Labrador, you're pretty sure it's a Labrador. Right. Okay, so they're not coming to us to detect whether or not it's a Labrador or not. That's not the purpose of our product. But actually, it's to understand its health, its relatives, its ability to have physical traits which may indicate something interesting to the pet owner. So it's becoming more about aligning human health with pet health, and we seem to care as much, if not more, about our dog's health than we do our own. And so it really is about going that level deeper. So it's an emergence. There's still a lack of education around genetic health within dogs, and even less so in cats, actually. And we're starting to see vets recommend the product, which is amazing. I would personally love to see DNA testing in dogs as ubiquitous as microchipping, because if everybody has to get a microchip, everybody should have to have a DNA test, and it's somehow affordable for all, because I think it's a really responsible way to own a dog.
When we did the DNA test on Rodney, I did actually go away and look at DNA testing in humans. So It is on the cards. I am going to do it. However, I wanted to wait and see what the results with Rodney. So if today's traumatic for me, then I'm not going to go and do it myself. So just before we kind of get to the big event, I just want to understand the science behind the test itself. So how did we get from the cheek swabs that you took a few weeks ago to the report that we're going to see before us? How does it work?
Yeah, really good question. So we took a cheek swab of Rodney's DNA. It was a really simple process, just took sort of 15 seconds or so. What happens from there is that I sent it back to our lab in Scotland. And then really that's where the magic happens. So the extraction of DNA process starts, and we extract and then, I guess, run that DNA against a huge reference database to identify similar patterns. And therefore, another reason why every dog should get DNA tested is because the more samples we have, the more potential matches, which means the more accurate the results. So again, if we think about the accuracy, when you do a human DNA test, it changes and evolves over time. You'll be 1% something tomorrow, maybe 2% in a year's time, as they learn more about people similar to me, right? So we're making millions and millions and millions of comparisons within the DNA database. Wisdom Panel actually has the largest, so we are proud to say we've got the biggest canine database globally. So we're able to make quite accurate results comparisons. So we'll say that our tests are over 98% accurate. And then what happens from there is once the DNA has been, I suppose, pushed through the process and compared through our database, we reveal the results back to you. And that whole process takes about 2 to 3 weeks.
Right. Okay. When I got Rodney, I went to meet his parents, and they were working farm dogs. And his mother Dot was what I think was probably a kind of a Jack Russell Patterdale type cross, more Patterdale probably, but she was a scruffy kind of black and white dog. And his father, who was called Spike, so he's Dot and Spike, was a kind of more of a Lakeland type terrier look. So I've got those 3 breeds in my head. However, what was really interesting, I think, about meeting them is they had even though they had completely different physical appearance, they also had very different personalities. So his mum was so lovely. She wanted to come and say hello. She was very friendly, very affectionate, and wanted just to spend kind of time with you. His dad was a bit more aloof, a bit more assertive. He was there doing a job, basically. He was, protecting his domain, and that kind of was his role on the farm. And it's really interesting because Rodney has inherited both their personality characteristics, in that he's very, very loving when he wants to be, but he makes choices. And so for example, in the morning he's lovely, he wants cuddles, he's quite sleepy. In the afternoon, basically shouting at people, anybody that wanders past, in true terrier style. Now you obviously met Rodney.
I did.
Now,
very cute.
Yeah, now he kind of is, I don't know, I'm feeling drawn towards the Patterdale Jack Russell side of things. He's never quite got the broken coat. He's never quite developed that scruff, apart from this little bit of kind of beard fluff around here, which is, adorable. But in terms of the rest of him, I mean, he could, apart from his colour, look very much like a Jack Russell to me, I think. But yeah, I'm a bit.
Long legs.
He has got really long legs, and it's really funny.
Muscly.
He is in quite good control of his legs, so he's not like a baby. Sometimes dogs are quite baby giraffe, so he's quite, he's quite nimble on them. But they are a little bit weird, I would say, and quite different from any of the other breeds that you're probably going to mention. So,
have you made any comparisons to sort of similar dogs as an adult? Do you have that conversation in the park? I quite often do, especially with the Daxies. It's like, oh, is yours a miniature? No, mine's not a miniature. Is yours a miniature? No, it's this full size one. No. And they're all so different, particularly between like girls and boys. Or even the other day I met someone, I think his legs are too long for a Daxie, even though it's a purebred Daxie. Yeah. So there's so much conversation that happens in the dog park about it's got funny ears, or it's got long legs. And quite often now I say, well, I should DNA test him, see what's going on.
So interestingly, what I get in the park is he a border terrier? That's what I get. And I'm like, well, I wish he had more scruff like a border terrier. But that's right. And it's really interesting because somebody said to me the other day, you're a prime example, Paul, of how dogs resemble their owners, or owners resemble their dogs. And I'm like, well, yeah. But the funny thing about that is that I have got kind of dual heritage as well in my genetic makeup. And in fact, it goes a bit beyond that. My grandmother was kind of Tibetan, and my grandfather was from Kathmandu, and my mother was a mix of English and Scottish. So actually, people throughout my life have never been able to place me either. So I do feel like a little bit of kindred from Rodney, in that we're both kind of these little kind of, I don't know, genetic wanderers, shall we say? But yeah, so that's Rodney in the present day. Okay, Georgina, I think it's time. I can't hold it in anymore.
Rodney's test results are in. We finished our science, and now it's time to learn what Rodney's DNA has to say. Ready?
Yes.
All right. So 13 breeds detected.
Oh, wow.
Okay, 13. So 13 breeds detected in Rodney's DNA. The top 5. Parson Russell Terrier, 27%.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I know
24% Patterdale Terrier.
Right. Yeah.
20% Border Terrier.
He has got Border Terrier.
You ready for this one?
Oh, God. Yeah, go on then.
6% Lakeland
Oh,
Terrier,
wow. That's really interesting, isn't it?
5% Wire Fox Terrier. So we've got a lot of terrier going on.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Hang on. Let me just absorb that a second.
Let's
So
absorb this.
let's absorb that. So, okay, Parson Russell Terrier, Patterdale Terrier, Border Terrier. So his top 5 breeds are all terriers.
That's the
Now,
one.
that makes complete sense. And actually, there is the 3 kind of in there that I probably would have expected in the top 5. So that's not hugely surprising. And the Border Terrier is what everybody in the park thinks he is anyway.
So now you can say, well, actually, he's 20% Border Terrier.
No, actually 20%. So the Wire Fox and Lakeland, yeah, I think that it's really interesting, that, isn't it? Because his dad did look very much, I would say, like that kind of Lakeland Terrier. So I'm surprised that he's only 6% Lakeland.
You've got the advantage, right? A lot of people don't see the parents of their dogs, so they can't have that visualization of what it might be or could be. So this is even more powerful if someone's never even seen the parents of their dog.
So on this result, generally, if his mum, for example, was pure Patterdale, that would have said 50% Patterdale. Yes. Okay. So his parents were a bit of a Heinz 57 themselves from that. Is that I'm taken from that? Okay. Right. What are we up to now? About 70, nearly 80%, are we?
Do you want to see why maybe a little confused by his appearance?
Yeah, go on then.
So look at all those different types of terrier. He's got 3% Chihuahua going on in there, by the way.
my other half calls him his little Chihuahua, but
1% American Pit Bull Terrier.
What? Come on, no way.
There you go.
Mind you,
there you go.
No, I mean, he has got a little bit of big dog syndrome, but I just put that down to most terriers do. Wow, what else have we got? So we've got Russell Terrier, Bedlington, Chihuahua, Tenterfield Terrier, German Hunting Terrier, a Smooth Fox Terrier, and a Sealand Terrier.
He's a terrier through and through, right?
Yeah, apart from a little bit of Chihuahua and an American. Oh, no, that's still Terrier. Wow. 97% terriers then. Wow, that is.
There you go. So then, I have a cockapoo, and he's actually 5 different varieties of spaniel. And as a pet owner, again, I'm abreast of what I know what a cocker spaniel is, but actually, did I know about all of the other types of spaniel that I'd need to go and now research to understand them? So again, it kind of digs deeper into, we think he's a Parson Russell Terrier, but actually maybe I need to dig a little deeper into what a Tenterfield Terrier is, for example.
Yeah.
That's his ancestry right there.
Wow. And so that is going to change how I describe him to people. Absolutely. Because before I would have said, Jack Russell, Patterdale, kind of Lakeland cross, but it's less of the Lakeland, more of the Border.
I would go with the Border Parson Patter. I don't know. You could come up with some kind of mixed name.
I might put that out to the listeners. Actually, come up with a new breed mix for Rodney. Fantastic! Oh wow, that's really interesting.
Okay, I love what else is going on.
Yeah.
So relatives. All right, so we found 37 relatives of Rodney. No close relatives at this point.
Right.
1 extended relative and 36 distant. So he's got some extended family in our database currently. So we've got Izzy here, who's part of his extended family, and there's a 5% crossover in their DNA.
Right.
And then we've got Spud, Chili. Okay, so these are quite distant relatives, but as we DNA test more, you may see and you end up with close relatives of Rodney at some point.
I do know Rodney's got a brother in London.
Well, then let's get the brother in London DNA tested and see how they compare.
No, definitely.
So eventually within our system, you're going to be able to, if obviously the pet parent is comfortable and select that within their settings, you'd be able to get in touch and say, hey, I'm Rodney's dad, and looks like we've got, similar related pets. Okay, health. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, good stuff. So there is no genetic health predispositions in Rodney's DNA. So we tested for 206, and there's no notable or at-risk health conditions. So we are all clear there.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, do you know what? That feels amazing to hear that. That is fantastic. It's really good. I did have a bit of anxiety about this one, actually, to be honest, because even though I was so excited about the breed bit, I was thinking, oh gosh, what if it comes back with with a genetic disease? That's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. And then you're able to really dig in here to absolutely everything, but it will tell you here are some common conditions in the breed makeup of Rodney. So they're going to really, educate you here. An immunodeficiency gene is in Jack Russell Terriers. And then you can see here the 177 clear tests, and you can learn about all of those in a lot of detail. Actually, this one here, primary lens luxation, is quite common, I believe, in Patterdale Terriers, the Parson Russell Terrier. Oh, and Patterdales, here you go, which is around the lens of the eye becoming loose and eventually displacing. So it would mean sight issue later in life. So again, very important to understand a lot of this information early.
That's amazing.
You've got an encyclopedia here of breed knowledge and health, genetic health information for you to go and gen up on.
Yeah, and also like when you just started talking there about the lens luxation, like I have seen that quite a lot in practice, and
really?
the cases that I've seen have been so that's really good to know. That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, traits. Should we move on?
Yeah.
39 trait tests on Rodney's DNA.
Yeah.
First, we learned he's a very good boy. But here's what else we found. All right, so we found 3 special coat color genes in Rodney's DNA: mask, fawn, and tan points. So if we click into this, you can see he's got 2 copies actually of the mask coloring.
Right.
Causes dark facial hair, mainly over the dog's muzzle, which looks a bit like a mask. The mask variant is also known as M and is found in the MCR1 gene, also known as E locus. So if you see the picture of Rodney you showed, you can see that, can't you, around his muzzle? Yeah. And you made that point specifically. Yeah. And we can see here that it's common in the Wheaton Terrier, in boxers. Mm-hmm. German Shepherds definitely have that kind of mask muzzle, don't they, on their nose? Yeah. Pugs, American Bulldogs, and the list goes on. Yeah. So that's interesting. That, again, clarifies as to why he's got the dark face. Yeah. What else have we got going on here? So in terms of coat patterns, 2 copies of the saddle tan coat pattern. Mm-hmm. Alternative names are creeping tan, black and tan. So when people say, "Oh, what color is my dog?" "Oh, it's black and tan." That's what breeders will use as the name. So the saddle tan variant is responsible for the red color pattern with a dark-haired saddle over the back. Is that what you recognise? Yes, definitely. There we go. And it's common in Airedale Terriers. Mm-hmm. You start to see again that German Shepherd, the Beagle. Again, that sort of black and tan colouring. Yeah. So that gives you the information about why the coat colour is the way it is. Okay, coat length. So 1 copy of the curly coat. Not 2 copies, but 1 copy. So interesting there. 1 copy is probably why you're not seeing that. Yeah. But it is there. And is that from the kind of the Lakeland and the Fox? Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So just to explain that, you say he's only got 1 copy of that, but it doesn't look like it's been expressed in his coat. He's got this area on his back which is a bit scruffy-ish and there's a slight wave to it, but it's not curly as such. So just explain that with that result that we've got. So 2 copies is what it requires to be prevalent, is my understanding. So the 1 copy would just mean that it's not present as such. Okay, so it's there in his genes, but it's not been expressed in his kind of, is it phenotype, in his coat type? Absolutely, exactly. So we can see here 2 copies of the reduced shedding. So as a pet owner, are you hoovering a little less than the Labrador owner? My last dog didn't shed that much at all, really. So relative to her, I think he does. But then when I go, for example, to my mum's house and see the amount of that her dog shed, I think actually I've got off pretty lightly. So yeah. There you go. So then again, it informs decisions that pet owners may want to make when they're getting a dog. Perhaps they want a low shedder. So again, wisdom is kind of a source for being able to identify what dog should I get. Yeah. And then lots more information here about Rodney's ideal weight. How much does Rodney weigh? Do we know? 9.2 kilos. Oh, perfect. Look, so his optimal weight range here is between 6 and 11 kilos for an optimal weight range for his breed type. So again, really important information there. That's amazing. How do you get that from a genetic test? But it says here, we analysed 7 separate genes in Rodney's DNA and ran the results through our algorithm to determine Rodney's ideal weight range. So you can read here more about weight range. And the weight range feature uses your dog breed and genetic results to determine healthy interval for your dog's weight.
That's really, really good information, actually, because obviously with crossbreeds, it's very difficult to, you can do body condition score, obviously,
yes,
but in terms of if somebody phoned you up and say, what's the ideal, weight for these mix of breeds, it's very difficult to be able to say that, isn't it? So, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool feature, actually, and just keeps again owners informed about how to manage a healthy weight, which we know is obviously a huge problem. Okay, so body shape, body features. So the head shape, Rodney's has genes for the average to long snout.
Yeah.
He's got brown or amber eyes. I saw that.
Yeah. He has, and interestingly, when the sun hits them, they do go amber. So he has got amber in his eyes. Yeah.
His ears are more upright.
No, they've got a little fold in them.
Okay. He's got no copies of the floppy ear gene, but he has got genes for more upright.
Oh, so not completely.
Completely upright.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they're not the side of his head. They are upright, but then there's a little fold on the top of them.
Okay. So in other news, Rodney appears to have the most common number of toes for a dog: 5 on each paw, 4 on the back paws.
Correct.
But we do see an extra toe. Sometimes dogs have that extra hind dew claw.
Yeah.
Interesting that comes out. And then 4 other body feature traits that we tested. No copies of those, though. So that's his trait information. And the one other thing I wanted to share with you was back to his ancestry, just digging a little deeper into his family tree. So this will blow your mind. So there's his parents. So again, the Parson Russell Terrier mix, the Border Terrier mix, and the Patterdale Terrier on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got his grandparents, then his great grandparents.
Wow.
Okay, so we've got here his great grandparents, all the way down to great grandparents. You can see here that American Pit Bull Terrier doesn't appear within even the great grandparents. So it's way back when in his ancestry that breed may have snuck in there.
And that's why it's only kind of 1%, I guess. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Do you know what? There's so much in there. I'm going to really spend some time going through that in a huge amount of detail. But I think the key takeaways for me are the health section, seeing that he's got no genetic health issues, which I didn't actually estimate how relieved I feel about that. And actually just thinking about the panic that I might have felt if I'd have seen something there. So that was so reassuring. But also all these different kind of terriers. It's amazing to have such a mix of terrier. But I think what I'm probably going to do as a result of that is look at those top 3, which are the majority of Rodney, and then understand those breeds a little bit more in terms of, his needs and going forwards, what I need to do as an owner.
And the differences between those, they may have different likes and dislikes, particularly, if you own a dog around children or perhaps socializing your dog with other dogs, there could be differences there between those 3 terriers in terms of how they respond. So definitely really great from a behavioral perspective to dig into that in a little bit more detail.
Georgina, that was so amazing. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time to go through that. And I'm going to definitely grab those results and pore over them this weekend. So practically, what do I now go and do with that information? What are the top things you would recommend that an owner does that's just got a DNA test?
Yeah, so depending obviously on the results, the first would be the health side of things. Now, Rodney's genetic report came back clear from a health point of view. And you mentioned, obviously about the panic that may set in if you saw something there that perhaps, let's face it, genetic information is complicated. If I had a one of those genes pop up in my dog, the first thing I'd want to do is understand it. And the second thing I'd want to do is speak to a vet and understand specifically what it means and put my mind at rest. So we do recommend within the product that, if anything is there, that you do speak to one of our vets or indeed your own vet, about what that means. And you can download the report, actually print that off, take that into your vets and say, look, just done a DNA test. I see that he has the recessive gene for X. Can you help me understand it, and what does it mean? On the breed side, you've really nailed it already. Is educate yourself, and get closer to what it means to build a bond with 5 different types of terrier, or in your case, 13 different types of terrier. So I think it's just educate yourself. Make sure you're obviously reading from, and you'll know this, but a responsible source when it comes to understanding breed information. Create an identity for Rodney. Ensure that he is who he is, and he's proud of being those complete mix of terriers there, and really just tailor then anything that you find based on meeting the needs of the top 3 to 5 different breeds in your dog. So might that be tailoring exercise, tailoring his nutrition, for example. So it might just, you might want to make a few tweaks in what you're doing on the behavioral side to see if you can get a better response from him. If you do certain things which may, in your case, terrier is going to respond the same, the 3 different types of terrier there that you've got. I'm assuming from a behavioral point of view, maybe it might just be worth speaking again to your behaviorist and saying, hey, look, this is what I now know. How can you help me? So, really is just about empowering you to make the decisions that you think are right for Rodney.
Really, really good advice, Georgina. And do you know what? I am so appreciative of you coming on and presenting those results to me, so I really understand them. This has definitely been one of my favorite episodes so far, just because of this deeply personal kind of like a life event I've just had with the big reveal. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I can't believe I've been so patient and actually...
No, you've done very well.
I can't believe you've guarded those so fiercely as well. But it was really, really great experience. And I, thoroughly recommend people to go out and get a DNA test for their dogs. Where do people go who want more information?
Yeah, so super simple. You visit our website, which is wisdompanel.com. There you're going to be able to choose from 3 different types of dog DNA tests, ranging from just breed ancestry all the way through to the most comprehensive product that we did on Rodney, which is the premium product. So 3 different price points there, depending on your needs, and purchase, and it will be with you within a couple of days.
I love it. Thank you so much for today, Georgina. Thank you.
No worries. I reckon you should go and throw a breed reveal party now. Like the gender reveal parties. Let's bring them into the world for dogs and have breed reveals.
It would have to be one of those balloons with like 13 different colours in it, though. I think it just might confuse everybody. Oh, thank you so much.
No worries, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.